I was just chatting with one of the parents about reinforcers. How often should we be reinforcing our dogs, and how should we be doing it? It's variable. The amount of challenge in the environment, the amount of challenge of what we're asking them to do in any given moment is what informs our rate of reinforcement. So specifically how frequently we are rewarding them, but also we want to consider, good boy, the type of reinforcers that we're using. So a good example is what you just saw there. Anchovy is having a lot of big feelings today, and sometimes for Anchovy that manifests in humping. Humping is not always a sexual act. It is way more often a way to regulate their energy, their nervous system. They're having really big feelings. They're looking for a coping skill or intervention to help them regulate those big feelings and feel a little bit more level. And humping serves that purpose. So we want to instead give him support and reinforce preferred behaviors. The support I offered him in that moment, as I saw him, good, be free. The support that I offered was giving him a down cue. He previously had permission to be free, as they do now. They can be a dog within reason, make their own choices, move about, etc. But when he started to struggle, I just asked him for an incompatible behavior to stop that. Anchovy? Yes, good. And that time I didn't even have to ask for it, right? He knows what gets him reinforced and rewarded based off of the reinforcement history. And so you're doing a really good job communicating as a dog parent when your dog starts offering preferred behaviors without being asked. That means that you've done a really good job in letting them know, in communicating well, when they're on the right track and making those preferred behaviors. Now keep in mind, there's no such thing as a good or bad behavior. There's just preferred behaviors. Behaviors are all communication of an underlying need and or emotion. So even the humping, even though we don't like it, it's a little rude, it's a little invasive. Good. It's not bad, it's not immoral, there's no moral value to a behavior. There's simply communication when it comes to our dogs. So we want to communicate really well, really clearly when they are on the right track. And that's where reinforcers and our reward system come into play. So both the frequency of reward and the type of reward. I'll give you an example. You can't see behind the camera, but there's a walkway just behind it. And so we had a school group that just walked by. And they were great. They're just being kids, but a little exciting. They're kids. They're loud. They're moving about. They have this like funny little walking system where they're holding on to what looks like a leash, quite honestly, but they're just walking together. I rewarded a little more frequently in that moment because, one, the children were distracting, and two, he was still having a really hard time with those big feelings and not channeling them into humping his friend Hudson. And we would prefer he not do that. I suspect Hudson would also prefer he not do that. Good. What Hudson is doing here, I mentioned, they'll offer preferred behaviors that will get them rewarded if you've done a really good job in consistently rewarding preferred behaviors. So he's frustrated. He really wants a snack and to be told that he's a good boy. Are you in? Good. And so he was offering behaviors that he knows usually gets him paid. He was offering this one. Are you in? Yes, good. And I didn't reward it in that moment because I didn't ask for it. I don't want to accidentally teach him that pawing at me is a good way to get attention and reward. Good boy. That attention is rewarding. Yes, good. Oh. Good job, Anchovy. Anchovy's being a very good. So I want to be intentional and strategic about my timing of my rewards. If he's pawing at me and I don't want to accidentally encourage that, good, be free, good. I need to make sure to not reward when that's happening. However, if I'm asking for Hudson, are you in? Yes, good. Then we can reward it in that moment because that's what I've asked for, right? Anchovy, are you in? Are you in? Yes, good, 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 good. The behavior we're looking for is this: maintaining the paw on top of the human hand until we tell them to be free. And so you saw him offer the UN cue without being asked. You saw him kiss me. He knows those are things that usually get him rewarded. He put himself in a down, good boys, without being asked. Again, they have permission to be free. But coming back to my original point, our reward system is our communication. What we reward, what we give attention to, what we give praise to, what we give treats, play, etc., whatever your dog finds rewarding, those are the things that will be repeated. So we want to be intentional about what it is that we are rewarding based on what is it that we prefer and what behaviors are going to help them coexist successfully, happily, healthily along our sides in the unnatural to them human world. We live in Washington, D.C., and it's more dog friendly than a lot of places. That said, a city environment is not supernatural for dogs. There's a lot of challenges here. You know, kids walking by is the least of them. And so we have a lot of opportunities, a lot of necessity to practice certain manners, certain cues, certain behaviors in order to set them up to coexist successfully in a city environment, and also to keep them safe. A good example is I can't have dogs running up to each other on leash. It's not appropriate in any species, quite frankly, to run up on another, but also when dogs are on leash, they feel a little vulnerable. They know that they're stuck, their options are limited, and so fight, flight, fawn, freeze is triggered a lot more easily. I don't want to put them in a position that could become a safety risk. And so the very first thing that I work on with dogs is neutrality. Neutrality around, good boy, around other dogs and around all things, squirrels, scooters, people, etc. That's partly what we're doing here. We call this exercise stationary work. Stationary work refers to finding a spot to sit, giving them the time and space to take in their environment, and looking for opportunities to mark and reward preferred behaviors. Additionally, when I do stationary work, I like to play the engage-disengage game, meaning I look specifically, in addition to marking and rewarding any good behavior we want to see repeated, I really look for the moment where they look away to a potential distraction or trigger, and then they choose me. They look back to me. That moment is really crucial to mark so that we can really clearly communicate to them, I am always the most rewarding, exciting, engaging thing in your environment. Sometimes that's really easy to be the most rewarding, exciting, engaging thing in their environment. Other times when there's school groups and scooters and squirrels and other dogs, etc. around, that's a little bit harder. We need to work a little bit harder in our reward system, in how we engage our dogs to set them up for success, to maintain engagement with us, and to have a regulated enough nervous system to be able to do any of the stuff we're talking about. Keep in mind, at the root of all behavior is a nervous system. And this is true for dogs and humans, if they are dysregulated, they are not capable of managing their emotions and behaviors effectively, consistently. It is our job to set them up for success in all ways, including helping them cultivate a regulated nervous system, diverse gut microbiome, sorry, trying to talk too fast. Those are things that set them up for success to be able to offer preferred behaviors, to manage their impulse control, to make good decisions. It's really not fair to focus only on behavior because it's such a small part of the puzzle. Now notice, right? So the benefit of having two, and for context, we had a couple of bicycles just go by. We had a dog walk by on the other side here. Good job. So I want to be intentional about what it is that I'm marking and rewarding. I personally, as a person, I don't mind him pawing at me, but I don't want to cultivate this behavior because you could see how this could become, good boys. It could become problematic and really annoying for some people pretty quickly. So we just want to be intentional and strategic. We give attention to what we like and we want to see repeated. We ignore what we don't like, we'd rather not see repeated. And so that comes down to the rate of reward, the quality of reward. How frequently are we praising praising, treating, etc. I see them. Good job. Good quiet. Nice. Nice decision. We had a dog come up behind us. We were a little surprised. Right there. Good. Asking him specifically to put his nose down to get it, just to get his eyes off of the friend. Oh, good, good. You can see how hard it is to be intentional about that timing sometimes, because as I'm actively going to reward him, he starts to paw at me. And so you back off and you go, and you know, it's this little dance of communication. Rate of reward, including whatever your dog finds rewarding: praise, treats, toys, play, attention, etc. And the quality. Lower challenge, less stimulation in the environment, I'm leaning into things like kibble and dried unsweetened blueberries. Bigger challenge, they're getting open farm meal mixers, which you saw can crumple up really easily. They're getting dehydrated chicken. Anchovy, can you come this way? Good. Just because the leash is underneath Hudson. Good. Be free. And I don't want him to accidentally drag his friend over. We're using single ingredient, high quality treats and good quality, minimally processed foods. So I love open farm. We love dehydrated chicken, Stewart's beef liver. We love blueberries. We have a lot of diversity. Ziwi's another great one because it's air dried. But we're leaning into those higher incentive rewards. Again, paying attention to what does the dog in front of you find most rewarding and exciting. A good example, Anchovy really prefers the open farm meal mixers. Those are probably his favorite. Whereas Hudson really likes the dehydrated chicken. And I think it's because, very good, I see them. I think it's because of the crunch of the chicken. He likes the crunch, the texture. Dogs, just like humans, have preferences of both textures, flavors, tastes, temperatures. So notice, take the time, take the energy. Part of your relationship building is really getting to know your dog and their preferences, and then using that information to your benefit to be able to reward them accordingly and to cultivate your relationship with them as an individual. So, good. They've been so patient. Anchovy, are you in? Yes, very good. Nice. Hudson, are you in? Yes, good. Anchovy, are you in? Anchovy, are you in? Yes, very good, very good, very good.